Hello, everyone, and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Jennifer Tejada, CEO of PagerDuty. Jennifer, nice to see you.
So nice to see you again, Andy. How are you?
Doing great. So why don't we start off by you telling us what PagerDuty is and what do they do?
Thank you. So PagerDuty is a publicly listed cloud-native SaaS company that I've had the pleasure to lead for the last 8 years. And we're responsible for helping our customers do what I call crossing the operations chasm. Most large enterprises have spent billions of dollars in modernizing their technology stacks in service of delivering wonderful experiences for their end consumers. However, they still operate a lot like they did post-World War II. Very command and control, sequential workflows, leveraging antiquated technologies like ticketing systems to get work done in their organization. And the unfortunate thing is that their end consumer expects a delightful, perfect experience with a lot of immediacy. And when that experience doesn't deliver, they have many opportunities to go to competitors, to cancel their subscription, to shift their business to a different network provider. And so we help companies automate and manage very intelligently, with the benefit of both traditional AI and generative AI, the way they operate, detecting problems in their technology stack or in their operating systems that can cause a downfall or a disaster in a customer experience, orchestrating that work to the right handful of subject matter experts or technology service owners so that you can prevent small issues from becoming major incidents or material business impacts, but also prevent major incidents from repeating themselves. And these incidents that we talk about are trust erasers. You go from having a loyal customer who believes in your brand, who is a raving fan of your experience, to someone who no longer wants to work with you because you didn't deliver on the day it was important to them.
Right, and the company was founded in Waterloo, Ontario, correct?
Yes, we were founded
the Silicon Valley of Canada, but now it's in Silicon Valley, right?
That's right.
And so basically you're the company that mitigates outages to a degree, right?
100%.
Okay.
And hopefully prevents outages from happening. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, that site's never down. They don't have major outages. Companies aren't going dark anymore. It's actually not about a total outage. It's getting that spinning wheel when you're trying to sign up for something, having a problem transacting your shopping cart and knowing that merchandise is going to get to you in a month, being able to order tickets to the Taylor Swift concert in the moment that you have access to the seats that you want, right?
So what causes all those problems, Jennifer? Is it hackers, old equipment, bad equipment, just, people unplugging servers? What is it?
Yes, to all those things. It's, first of all, there's no such thing as perfect software. And complexity is proliferating. We use things like distributed architecture, and we rent compute from public cloud providers. Most companies leverage a lot of public cloud services and also use third parties. So they can't control all the different elements of the technology ecosystem that deliver an end consumer, end user experience. And a lot of things can go wrong because that complexity has proliferated over time. You also have human error. Humans still do a lot of manual work associated with managing products and services. You have technical debt, older or antiquated hardware and software environments that have dependencies throughout a company's technology ecosystem that rear their heads unexpectedly and can cause really big technical problems that lead to revenue impact, sometimes lead to disclosable material business events, and certainly can lead to customer dissatisfaction.
So how big a problem is this? Can you quantify it? And the flip side, I guess, is your TAM, essentially, right? Like, how big a business could you have? I mean, and how do you even quantify that?
Yeah, well, we think about the TAM as being tens of billions of dollars of opportunity,
market, right?
Total addressable market. And the way we think about the cost of a major incident to a customer, there are a lot of companies that have done third-party surveys and sort of investigated like how much revenue and labor cost is at risk in a minute or an hour of downtime. And on average, it's about $400,000 an hour. Now, we've had e-commerce companies tell us it's a multiplier effect of that number, that it can be several millions of dollars an hour when something doesn't work. Think about back to school for a retailer, or the Super Bowl for a broadcaster, major advertisers. Think about applications that generate all their revenue through a digital shopping cart and what happens when that shopping cart's not working, or trading systems in large banking environments. You can get to billions and trillions of dollars that can be affected when these systems don't work correctly. And almost every monetary or data transaction that we make as consumers today is somehow supported through technology.
I think you told me once, Jennifer, that software upgrades or upgrading the system can often be a big culprit, right?
That's right. Over 2/3 of major incidents, we can connect back to a change as the primary contributing
Change is bad?
factor.
No.
Change is usually good,
Right.
right? Often we're talking about softwares continuously deploying improvements and upgrades to a technology system, to an application that at the end of the day serve you and I as consumers. But that change injected into a system can often also create stability, because within that ecosystem is technology debt, for instance, that maybe isn't visible to the developer that is deploying that change. And so being able to very quickly know that actually the cause of your problem is the change, rolling back to get the system stable and working for consumers until you can figure out what the problem is a really important part of what we do. And we can even today use generative AI, so it's simple as a software engineer or an incident responder asking our service the question, asking our AI assistant, has there been a recent change? And that takes all of the rich context of 10 years of managing incidents in our platform across 15,000 companies, which is like 2/3 of the Fortune 100, over half of the Fortune 500, of knowing that actually, yes, it was a deployment that is at the root of this problem.
What kind of companies do you have, or maybe organizations as well, as customers? And also, who are you competing with? What's the competitive set look like?
Yeah, so most large enterprise brands that you can imagine use PagerDuty, from the largest banks, investment banks and commercial banks that you work with, some of your favorite retail brands, your favorite sports brands, the largest broadcasters and networks. They're all leveraging PagerDuty because this problem is a problem that exists everywhere. And so I would describe us as a horizontal offering, because it's not, this problem's not unique to specific industries, whether you're in transportation, media, hospitality and travel, software, internet, et cetera. Like you're leveraging and relying every day on software to both support your people in doing their jobs and support your end consumer in exchanging dollars and information for your goods and services.
Right. Let's talk about the stock a little bit, Jennifer. I think your company has like about a $2 billion market cap. You became CEO in July of 2016, and the stock's been on a bit of a roller coaster. Talk to us about why that's the case.
Yeah, I think what we do is pretty complicated in terms of the set of problems that we solve. It's very technical, and a lot of companies use the same marketing jargon to describe how they address technology problems with their software. What's unique about what PagerDuty does, which is what I think is important, is we were architecturally designed for mission-critical, urgent, high-impact challenges. Whereas a lot of the traditional workflow automation software or IT service management software that's out there was built for that sequential command and control, raise a ticket, wait for the right people to pick up that ticket and solve that problem. Our view is, why would you ever even raise a ticket if you can solve the problem right now in the next few seconds or minutes before the customer burns, before the customer experiences a difficult issue. We're also small for a public company, and I think scale does matter. We chose to go public in 2019 because we were making a transition from serving the most innovative software startups to the largest enterprise brands in the world. And going public on the New York Stock Exchange really helped us to increase our visibility for large enterprises, which now comprise most of our revenue generation today.
I know Kathy Wood has been a buyer and seller of your stock. She kind of looks like she trades it a fair amount. Have you ever spoken to her about that? And what
I
would she
speak
say?
to Kathy frequently, and I have a lot of respect for the level of effort that Kathy and her analyst team put into both understanding how our company operates today and how the stocks that she invests in, the problems that they solve, but also how she thinks about how the future is going to evolve. And one of the things that we predicted many years ago, that I predicted when I joined the company, was that technology was going to drive more and more of the revenue of any, large brand, large organization, as opposed to just being kind of a back office enabler, which is what it was a decade ago. And that certainly has become true. Software developers influence customer brands and products and experiences more than ever before. They're at the forefront of how you think about investing and partnering with the different brands that you as a consumer, or we as a business partner with. And she also made an early call that automation was going to become important, whether that was in autonomous automobiles or in software. And so, we've learned a lot from Kathy and her team. And likewise, I think they've learned a lot from investing in companies like ours.
All right, so make the case to Kathy Wood and to us about why investors should own PagerDuty stock going forward.
Because we're in very early days of this digital revolution that we're seeing accelerate as the result of generative AI, and the amount of technology disruption that every enterprise company in every industry is facing is just starting to, I think, sort of peak. And the market is starting to meet us. We're seeing increased momentum around enterprises that are choosing to expand their remit with PagerDuty from purely incident response to adding AI ops, adding automation, adding customer service ops, which are the 4 pillars of PagerDuty's operations cloud. And we've been able to talk about major software businesses, large semiconductor and chip manufacturers, travel and retail organizations that are using PagerDuty more broadly to cross that operations chasm, to modernize the way they work to meet the consumer demand in the market, and also to benefit from the investments they've made in technology modernization over the years.
Jennifer, you're out there in Silicon Valley, been talking about AI. I wonder what the mood is out there, what the economy is like. Are we in an AI bubble? What are your thoughts?
I've been in this industry for 3 decades now, and we are definitely in a bit of a hype cycle. And I think it's hard for traditional company CEOs to glean, like, where am I really going to unlock value with generative AI? How do I manage it responsibly so it doesn't blow up in my face because of security issues, data privacy issues, et cetera? So how do I put the right guardrails in place to be successful? And how do I drive culture and people to embrace automation when it worries them, in terms of job security, et cetera? And so I think there's a lot of excitement around generative AI that I'm generally positive on, because I think it does unlock the ability to solve really hard, really complex problems in a much shorter time period with a lot less resources. And at the same time, I think we're still very, very early in understanding not only what the technology can do, how it unlocks business value and consumer value, but also how we manage it responsibly. And the advice that I give to CEOs and CIOs and CTOs that ask me, like, where do I start? How do I both manage the FOMO, the fear of missing out on the upside, but also the FOGI, the fear of getting in? What happens if we trip publicly, and how will that look? I think you got to face that fear head on and take the learnings that we've had from, data regulation and data privacy. Take the learnings we've had from managing cyber threat and cyber vulnerabilities, and apply them eyes wide open, and ask your employees to be part of the solution. We want, at PagerDuty, we want our employees to exercise and practice using automation, using PagerDuty within PagerDuty to improve the way they work, to save on labor costs, and frankly, to level them up to do the fulfilling work that really accelerates innovation. And at the same time, like, we have specific policies in place and technology safeguards to ensure that we don't underdeliver on our customers' expectations, particularly around resiliency and security at scale, because trust is at the forefront of everything we do.
Yeah, I know you were talking about culture, and I know you're very thoughtful about leadership. You put out an email last year where you got some blowback, though, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on communicating just generally, but all your constituents, employees, shareholders, customers. It's kind of a fraught time right now, right?
It is a fraught time. And I mean, the great thing about an event like that is it was a failure that we learned from very quickly. And I think, some of the lessons were, one, there's no such thing as internal versus external communications. Anything I say or do on behalf of the company on my own time reflects on the company, its people, its products, and its services. And that's something that you can never lose sight on. The second is trust is something that, you build in droplets but lose in buckets. And we were fortunate that we entered into that event with a lot of trust and a lot of support from our customer base, and haven't really skipped a beat because there is some expectation, belief that people are human and they're going to make mistakes, right? And the last thing is that I think that as a leader, I am responsible to a much broader stakeholder audience than we have been in the past. I mean, I never would have imagined a decade ago that my employees would be coming to me during a global pandemic for advice on how to take care of themselves, whether or not they should be vaccinated, how to look after their elderly parents or their young children. We never imagined the sort of geopolitical kind of disruptions that we face and the sort of cadence of crisis that are just part of the CEO job today. Having said that, it makes for really intellectually stimulating work. And I think it's also very fulfilling work because I can have an impact not only on my customers and my employees, but also on the communities that we serve and society around us. And so taking the 1% pledge, where we, well before we went public, pledged to put 1% of our equity, 1% of our product, and 1% of our employee time to work for good for less fortunate communities around us. That's led to millions of dollars of investment in grants. It's led to impact customers who can leverage our product at a discounted cost, and more than 90% of our employees who volunteer on an annual basis for whether it's time-sensitive health, an area we care a lot about, or health equity and access to healthcare, or in things that they're just interested within their own communities. So the ability to do well as a business person, but do good for the people around us is something that keeps my job interesting and makes it fulfilling as well.
What about the Jennifer Tejada origin story?
Yeah.
How does one become the CEO of a SaaS company?
I mean, a lot of wacky
Is that what you wanted to do when you
accidents
grew
over
up?
time. It wasn't. My dad was a hospital administrator, and I thought that was a very noble job, providing healthcare for the local community, and that was something I planned to do. But the healthcare industry was deregulating just as I was exiting my undergraduate degree out of the University of Michigan. And so he encouraged me to just go to work, get some experience in the market. I was fortunate to be invited to interview with a little company called Procter & Gamble at the time, and they're somebody who still today invests very heavily in leadership development and management training. And it was there that over 6 to 7 years, I laid a deep foundational base on what it means to be a leader, how to lead, learned practical lessons that I'm still applying several decades later, to in my day job. And so I'm super grateful to Procter & Gamble for making those investments in people like me and, young managers in my freshman class at P&G, and also putting me to test in the field, being forced to go stand and deliver at a customer in front of a manager 2 levels or 3 levels above me. I learned how to communicate, to be persuasive, to manage objections, to handle conflict in that environment. That led me to discovering technology. I was working in a think tank for the CIO of P&G when the sort of internet started to happen. And I was like, I think this thing's more than a digital billboard. I feel like this is going to really change the way we work. So in the mid to late 90s, I went to work for a software company as the head of marketing and got my first experience in working in an environment that was a culture of innovation, where every day is very different, where the market landscape evolves a lot faster, where the barriers to competition are different because they're not physical barriers. They're sort of technical and virtual barriers. It's like, how fast can you identify really high value problem that if you can unlock that value, you can build into that total addressable market that we talked about. But I did lots of different things. I worked in private equity. I've been a board director for a few decades. I've lived overseas, for more than 10 years. And a mentor sat me down when I was in this sort of number 2 C-suite job and said, Jen, you really should be a CEO. You're doing most of the job and not getting the credit. And at the time I said, I kind of like being number 2. I like delegating the really hard stuff to you. And he said, but you're such a responsible person, you never do that. And you might benefit from being able to see the whole picture. And that was the best advice I ever got. I didn't listen to him immediately. I kind of ignored it for a few months. And he started giving my name to people in searches. And that's how I found my first CEO opportunity. And then I realized there's a real honor and privilege in doing what I do, in leading an organization and in helping people build their own careers. And there's also a tremendous joy in seeing the look on someone's face when they accomplish something they really didn't think was possible for themselves. And you look back to that moment when you ask them to do something and they look at you like you are truly crazy and clearly have lost touch with reality. And then months or quarters or a year go by and that person accomplishes that thing and is so incredibly proud of themselves, and it also expanded their own perspective on their potential. That is a wonderful and beautiful thing that you get through leadership.
Jennifer Tejada, CEO of PagerDuty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is at Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll catch you next time.